To refurbish this lock using the Refurb Kit, we'll first remove all of the existing components, the gearbox, the top hook and the bottom hook case. Begin by ensuring that the lock case is in the unlocked position. And remove the 4 T20 Torx screw fixings on the front of the faceplate. You'll notice the top fixing is the longest. Make a note of this for later. You'll also notice that from the top down, the third is a shorter screw. Again, make a note of this for later. With all the locking points, the fixing points removed, move the gearbox clear of the mechanism. And we can now move on to the top hook case. On this model of Era, this is a small hook case and it is attached to the faceplate with 2 T20 Torx screws. Remove these 2 screws. On these smaller hook cases, these fixing screws for the top and bottom hook cases are again longer screws. And move on to the bottom hook case. Again, same as the top hook case with 2 T20 Torx screws of the longer length. Once all of the lock cases are removed from the strip, be careful when handling the faceplate as it's very prone to bending in the weak areas. Make sure that the grey plastic snib for the holdback of the latch is retained. It's now time to get the contents of our refurb kit. This particular kit should contain a centre case or gearbox, top hook, bottom hook case and the fixing screws, which are of varying lengths. There are some middle length screws, 2 and 2, these are for the top hook and bottom hook case. There's a long screw, a single long screw, that is the top fixing for our gearbox, and there are 3 small screws that will be the other 3 fixings on our gearbox. So we are now in a position to start attaching the components from the refurb kit to our original faceplate. We're going to start with the gearbox, and before you begin, make sure that the plastic slider for the holdback of the latch is located and seated in the channel on the faceplate. Once that's in position, offer the gearbox to the mechanism, but before doing that, make sure the connecting rods are in position on the back. So the top connecting rod you will want to start off with in the extreme end of its travel in this direction, and the bottom connection rod in the extreme end of its travel in the upwards direction. And you'll also want to make sure the gearbox itself is in the unlocked position. So with a turn of the lever, pull the latch back, make sure that gearbox is not in the locked or thrown position. You will then offer the gearbox up to the mechanism with the latch through the latch aperture, and what you're trying to do is locate this round peg into the round hole on the back of the connecting rod. So latch through the latch aperture, push the gearbox home and manipulate that rod to the point where that peg will drop into that hole. And when you've got the top one in, get your top fixing screw in, which will be the longer of the screws available, the longest one, and only the longest screw will grab into the thread at the back. So you can't get this wrong, only the longest one will work. And use that to pinch that onto the gearbox and hold that peg in place on the connecting rod. Then at the bottom it is the same process. So again, there is a round hole visible on the connecting rod, and there's a round peg at the back. Make sure that you can get that located into the hole, and once you do, this time it is the shorter screws of what you have remaining. You should have 3 of them, and they're directly below the deadbolt is where the first of those 3 shorter torque screws will fix. Once you have those 2 screws in position, it's easiest to turn the lock onto its back and then apply the remaining 2. Again, these are of the shorter length T20 torque screws. Don't over tighten these screws, they won't work themselves out. No need to strip threads. Knit those up. We can then test at this point the operation of the lock to make sure that it is moving freely and the connecting rods are moving outbound and inbound okay. And we can move on to our top hook case, in this case a small hook case, and it's going to locate here into this aperture. There are some small pegs that hold it in position, and as with the larger hook case eras, this is the important part here, this small rectangular feature on the hook bolt casting itself, and that will locate into this small rectangular aperture. So this is the top hook. It is an outbound hook, an outboard hook, so it will move in that direction. So we know our lock case is in the unlocked position, so put our hook in the unlocked position, and you'll know when that's located into that rectangular aperture, because as you move the hook up and down on the rod, it will throw and release the hook bolt. So once that is in position, you have 2 medium length screws this time, again T20 torque screws, and they go all the way through the faceplate and screw into the holes on the back of the arms for the hook case to hold that in position. So once those are tightened down, again we will test the mechanism to make sure that hook is operating freely. We can then move on to our bottom hook case, which is the exact same process as the top hook case. However, this is again an outboard hook, so we'll move in a downwards motion. So your rectangular aperture is at the bottom of the hook aperture, and you're locating this rectangular feature here, the smaller one, into that. Once you have that in position, 2 further medium length screws. Will hold the bottom hook case in position. Once they are done, again, test the mechanism to ensure that all hooking points are locating and that our rollers are moving freely, and return the lock to the unlocked position for installation.